So, joining us on the How Did You podcast today is Dom Stevenson. He's made sure that he's taken his career down a path that he wants it to. Started as a runner, done lots of different things, including graphics, but now is a director, and you may have seen him on Coronation Street. How are you doing, Dom?
Very good. Thanks for having me on.
So, like I say, in that very, very quick and brief intro, because there's a lot of stuff that you've done according to your LinkedIn and according to everything that you see online. You've been a roto artist, you've been a VFX, you've been a floor runner, you've been an assistant director, you've been a third assistant director, you've been a post-production graphics, you've been a trainee director. What haven't you done, really?
That's the kind of thing that I get from work, really, is but the thing is, I did from university, really. They taught us everything. So then you've just got like that base of knowledge for going on into the industry. So yes, I'm trying to be I'm not a jack of all trades, though. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing behind it. I'll try to be a master of all trades.
When you were a child, you must have had a path set in mind. What kind of path did you have? Did you always want to do, say, TV, film, whatever? Because I noticed, like I say, through your LinkedIn, that you studied film production. And whilst we were talking, that your university is actually shut down. And that's the whole reason why I'm doing this podcast, so people can gain experience and learn about things. But was that always your intended path?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'd never. And I was always a bit worried because I never had any other clue of what I wanted to do. Even when I was I remember being 10 years old, going to my granddad's house and just writing stories. And then through high school, I think I had a really good careers advisor who, when I was 13, sort of saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to work in the TV and film industry." It just was like this imaginary place that you'd no idea how to get into it. And I just had a really good careers advisor. She was like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" I was like, "Well, I like computers. I mean, something in IT." And she's like, "Well, you don't seem too bothered." And I was like, "Well, I mean, what I really want to do is I want to make TV. I want to make films. I want to work in all that." And she was like, "Well, do it then." And I come from Huddersfield, and there's no TV production going on there. Well, there is now. I know of it, but as a kid, you just don't know what to look for. And she said, "Well, why don't you just look into it? Try find places, try get experience, and try look for college, university courses." And so I did. So you just need to be pointed in the right direction, really. But yeah, it's always been my plan, because like I said, I've got no plan B.
Throughout your roles, like I say, you've done running, you've done graphics, and like you say, you want to become a master of all trades. Is there a particular role that you find kind of most fun or most enjoyable? Is it the fact that recently you've been directing Coronation Street? Is it the fact that it was something that you did when you first started out? Or is it something related to your short films that you create, which I'm sure we'll get onto?
I think I do want to just be a director, because I loved doing that, and I always have done. But I think I'm a bit of a nerd, really, and I just love the whole thing. I love writing stuff. I love if I can do VFX and stuff like that. And you know what? That's been a pathway to directing as well, because I've met, when you're like a runner or an assistant or like a third assistant director, you don't really have that much conversations with like the editors or the directors or the producers. But when I then started doing visual effects, they'd call me last minute and say, "We need you to cut this knife out of this shot," and it'd be the producer speaking to you. And so you'd have these conversations with higher up people, and it just kind of springboard you up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to settle on directing now, because that's what I really want to do. But I just enjoy everything. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like we always talk about this at work, is like, if you were going to be in another department, like if you're going to be in the costume department or in the art department, which one would you do? And I was like, I'd do any of them. The whole thing is just so much fun. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, to answer your question, I'm just a nerd.
You must have a lot of things on your plate, but behind you, I'm going to be inquisitive, and you've got a load of guitars. Are they yours?
Yes.
Do you enjoy playing guitar? And is there a particular song?
Please don't ask me to play. They're probably out of tune. I didn't play yet. Grew up with the Arctic Monkeys, so I was just an indie boy through and through back in those days. But all sorts, really. But when in terms of music, I like everything, because I always hear music as, again, because I'm a nerd, I just hear it as film soundtracks. Do you know what I mean? So you always, when you hear a song, go, "That'd be so good."
Yeah.
With this kind of sequence. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I feel like music has helped, me in the industry as well, just because you understand, timing and rhythm and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it all kind of music and pictures all merged together in our industry, I think.
If you had to give a bit of advice how to get into the position that you are without the kind of coach that you've had, what do you reckon it would be? Because yes, you had that guidance from when you were very, very young, but since then you must have taken your own path and took things for yourself. Like you say, your first day at ITV, I can't imagine what that was like, because you started off as a post-production runner, worked your way up to a floor runner, then became third assistant director, then post-production graphics, then trainee director, second assistant director and director. So you must have made your own way in. How did you keep that progression going?
I think it's just not taking no for an answer, really. Do you know what I mean? Because the only the ones who are determined survive, which sounds a bit brutally honest, but it's true. You really have to want it, because you'll probably get a lot of setbacks. Do you know what I mean? You just have to keep on trying everywhere, emailing people, and being kind of relentless a little bit in this. You feel like you're being annoying. Yeah. And I was like struggled with it a lot of times. I was like, no, I emailed them last week. I'm not going to email them again. And my older brother was like, no, just keep on to them, because like people are busy, and so they'll see an email and be like, oh, okay, and then they'll just forget about it because they've got so much on. So if you email them again, but that's that person who was emailing me yesterday, I'll reply this time. You know what I mean? And sometimes people won't reply, but then all you need is one person to take you on, and then just to make a good impression with, and then you kind of sorted. But yeah, I just try and find as many contact details as you can. There's Facebook groups for people who want to get into the industry via runners. You can like Facebook groups like TV runners looking for work, all this kind of stuff. There's social media is so great now. There's LinkedIn. Like yourself, you just found me on LinkedIn and got in touch, and now we're doing a podcast together. So it's very easy to do that. And I didn't have all this when I was first getting into it. So people who really do make the difference are people who get in touch. And I mean, this is my opinion, but if someone messages you and you don't reply, then you're a bit of a dick. Like, yeah. And I'm sure it happens to loads of people, but I'm always, if someone messages me, then I will try and reply and give some sort of advice, or, you know what I mean? Like, try and help. So I think people are very, very willing to help and look after, because everyone's been at the start of their career at some point, haven't they? So everyone knows what it's like. Yeah, I feel like I went off on a tangent there, but that's my 2 cents.
It definitely makes sense, because like you say, never give up, never back down, because if you want something, you can prove to yourself, and it also proves to the other person that you're actually just not there for your own gain. You're there for kind of because you're interested, kind of thing, if that makes sense. But you now worked your way up to a director. What was your first day like being a director? Or
well, it's different for every job, I guess. My first ever day as a director, I made a short film. And so, but being a short film with no money, I was the director, I was the producer, I was like 5 jobs. So it was a bit mad. But then finally getting to direct on Corrie, where, you are just the director and everyone else does everything for you. It was quite like a load had been lifted off me, and it's just like, I just have to focus on one job now. Yeah, I mean, the first stage, I was very lucky that I've had a lot of good mentors in the industry, like help me and let me train with them. And so the first day I ever directed properly was shadowing my friend Matt Hilton, and he was fantastic. Just kind of, there's so many things to think about you, because you're very aware of the time and the camera shots and the actors, and you want to make sure you please everyone. And he was just really good at saying, don't think about anything, just focus on what you need to, and I'll if you need any help, I'm right behind you. But yeah, it's just exciting, it's exhilarating, it's nerve-wracking. You can't sleep the night before, but that's what you're doing it for. It's funny, you work up for years and get to this point, and then the night before you're like, oh, why am I putting myself under this stress? But then you do it, and you enjoy it, and you learn from your mistakes, and you have a great time, and that's just what it feels like. But yeah,
let's completely change it up. What's life like outside of work? Because, like I say, you've got your guitars in the background. What do you do? Do you consume media? Is there a particular show you like to watch? Is there a particular music you like to listen to? You mentioned Arctic Monkeys in the past, but what is it like being Dom and not director Dom?
I mean, I've just got a puppy, so my life is very much revolving around a little puppy at the moment. And and I got married last year. So I live in Manchester with my wife. So and it's great. Our house is lovely. And yeah, well, before the puppy, it's like, so it's like pre-puppy, we used to try to get out as much as possible. Like, we've got a lot of friends down in London, so I'd go to London, try catch a play, something down there. I always like to go and see. I used to work in a theatre before I got into the industry, so I always like to see like live plays or live shows as much as possible, just because I think it's all part of the same game. Like, and so many actors who you work with have worked in theatre. Do you know what I mean? So it's good to understand all of it. I think like if you can't just watch TV, you need to watch film, you need to listen to podcasts, you need to watch theatre. You know what I mean? The whole thing is so together. So I try and do that as much as possible. And yes, so we had a lot more free time obviously before the puppy. I'm going to stop talking about my dog now. So we're just trying to get out. We're trying to go to the cinema as much as possible. You know what I mean? So I mean, again, like I said, I'm just a nerd, so my world revolves around this stuff a lot. But yeah, I mean, that's as much as I can say without boring you, I think.
You live the world that hopefully one day I'll situate myself in as well, because I've always wondered what it'd be like to direct a TV show. I've directed a technical performance at a school, and I've backstage produced like a TV show at university. But what kind of films do you watch at the cinema? Because yes, it's as important as it is to learn about you in ITV or any past jobs that you've had really short films or anything like that, but it's also important to learn about the person, because that helps them understand where their beginning came from. Because like you say, although you're not working, you're also kind of researching and learning about things, because you've got to stay a relevant fish in a big pond.
Definitely. 100%. And that's why I was asking you about TikTok earlier, because I feel like I've never got to this point in my life before, but when TikTok started getting big, I was like, I don't get this TikTok thing, and I feel like I need to, because it's TV, it's social media, it's all one thing. Again, you need to understand everything, and you need to be progressive. And so that's why TikTok still confuses me a little bit. So I was like, can someone give me a TikTok like tutorial, please? Because I really want to keep learning about everything. But no, yeah, like in the cinema, I mean, I used to be very much, when I was younger, I'd just be like solely like sci-fis, thrillers, blockbusters. That's what, you watch them, and that's why you want to go make a big film. You want to go make The Matrix, you want to go make Spider-Man, that kind of thing. But I think as you get older, your appreciation for the art form not just changes, but like evolves, and you understand and appreciate story more. And so we went to see Belfast last month, and I thought it was brilliant. And the brilliant thing is about it is, it's not a spoiler, but I mean, not particularly much happens in it, but that's not a bad thing, like, because it is just a film about these people's lives, and it's based on Kenneth Branagh's upbringing. But it's just lovely. It's shot beautifully. It's got lovely performance in it. It's just really enjoyable. But I think one thing that I can't remember who taught me this, but one thing that I've picked up on, I think this is a really good piece of advice, is go and watch something that you wouldn't normally watch. And even if you don't, maybe like, nothing against rom-coms, but maybe not so much rom-com, something that's like not your genre kind of thing, and maybe just go see it. And even if you're not enjoying it, just try and look at it technically, like, like, how have they done this? How have they done that? Why have they put the story here? Why are all these elements working or not working? And I think that's really good, just to know. You see, you're not just, if anything, if you're just working on what you want to watch, you've got so much, like, your knowledge is like so, narrowed, isn't it? So watch something you wouldn't normally watch, like, nothing about, like, you just like, for example, like, I knew nothing about RuPaul's Drag Race, and now we watch it all the time and we love it. And it's just like, and also it's so many things that are referenced in like pop culture, and you just miss them. Like, for example, I've never watched Breaking Bad, so we're now watching it all again. It's like, I need to watch Breaking Bad because I've never watched it.
I've never seen it.
Well, yeah, it's like, and it's, to be honest with you, you watch it now on TV. This is like mid-noughties. TV looks so different, and you didn't realize how much, like, how amazing the budgets are. Like, now when you're with Netflix and Prime and all that, and you watch like a show from like what TV used to be, and you're like, God, it really is dated. Like, I think they've had to stretch this to make it widescreen. It looked like it should have been. It was shot in 4:3. But yeah, just trying to watch as much diverse stuff as possible, I think, is the best. Is a good way forward.
Small fish in a big pond. Sorry. But there's lots of different stuff going on in the world. We don't know truly what's going to happen next because it all caught us unexpected last time. But where would you see yourself in a year? Do you see yourself hopefully still directing on Corrie, or do you think you'd be on a different TV show altogether?
I mean, yeah, because I'm quite happy. I've been full time at Coronation Street since I was a runner, and so they're kind of letting me. They've been training me up to direct for the last few years. So I mean, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity and for them letting me do it, and just really enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm quite happy, keeping on my experience, not running before I can walk, as it were, and just kind of carrying on and getting some more work there. And then I guess eventually have to kind of spread my wings. But I'm really enjoying it. I always like doing stuff in my own time. Like we said, direct some short films, and like we were talking before, I've written this podcast just to keep your creativity and your brain alive. But no, yeah, my plan is to keep getting as much experience at Coronation Street as I can, and then try and maybe start going elsewhere as well after. Yeah, so that's the plan. I'm very happy where I've got to at the moment.
I completely understand why, because like I say, you're very lucky to have the opportunity that you've got. You've made your way up from runner, which is essentially the very bottom to arguably very close to the top, if not the top. But these short films, they've eluded us throughout the podcast. What made you start writing short films? Was it the fact that it was something to keep your mind ticking? Was it something to keep the mind going, staying kind of in the point where you need to be within the media? And was it just something new to do? Or was it something that you just decided to do one day?
I mean, all of those things, really. I think I remember saying, again, this is going back to, I was doing visual effects and speaking to this director about, how the shot was going to work. And I started picking his brain. I was like, so how did you, where did you come from? Where did you start? How did you get to being a director? And he said, I just started making short films and then people noticed me. And it was as simple as that, really. And so that was the first kick up the arse that I needed. It was like, right, maybe I should, because I always knew that I wanted to, not specifically be a director, but I just wanted to tell stories or be able to tell stories and put something together. So I was like, right, this is what you've always dreamed of doing. So just think about it. And randomly came up with the idea of the short that I just thought, and obviously I had the help that, as in I knew some of the actors at work very well, so I could have professional actors on my side and professional crew on my side as well. So that really helped just springboard all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it was him saying to me, this is how I did it. So I was like, right, I'm going to try that too. To scratch the itch of, this is your passion. This is what you've always wanted to do. I was making short films with my mates when I was like 15 and they were all awful, but I love doing it. And then just having a new challenge, really. And then it's what got me to where I am, because everyone at work knew about it. And then the actors talked to some of the fellow actors about it. And then I could then send it to the head of production, because I'd had to ask all these people for permissions. Like, can I use this set? Can I use this person? Can I use this? And so afterwards, I sent it to everyone and said, oh, by the way, that little film I was talking about, here it is. And so everyone was like, oh, so maybe he wants to direct. And that was 2017. So, it takes, everything in this game takes a while to kind of mature. Do you know what I mean? You can't just say, right, I'm going to direct this film and then next week I'm going to be doing this. Like, everything's a very slow process, but sometimes that's a good thing. So yes, so that's why I made it, really. It's paid off.
Like you said, there's a lot of different challenges. Like the actors, I've seen you had Brooke Vincent in your short films, stuff like that, because like you say, experience is just as valuable as networking. I'm intrigued. What is your day-to-day actually like? Because I want to peel back the curtain, because truthfully, I'm nosy and I'm a bit of a nerd as well. I've dabbled in photography, video, editing. That's currently what I do now, obviously with the podcasters as well as my new job that I've got. But I've also been intrigued with graphics, with short films, with, like you say, you hear a piece of music and you go, that piece of music works. But before we get too far, what is your day-to-day?
Do you want it from in terms of like a second assistant director or from a director? Because I kind of do both at the moment, and I don't know which one you prefer.
Whichever one you think's more enjoyable or more exciting, or the one that you like the most.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll have to go for a director, but because it's not a full-time job directing, it's essentially like 98% of all directors are freelance. So you know, jumping from one job to the other. I'm just fortunate that because I'm full-time at Coronation Street being a second assistant director, that I can then get stepped up to direct. But it's not a full-time thing, and it's only like maybe it'll be twice a year is how many times I've done it this year. But from a director's point of view, like, you know, you start very early on in the second drafts, because the producers and the writers and storyliners have already planned all the story.
Yep.
And so they've already had a first draft, and then you have a second draft meeting, which comes to, it's you and the producer and the schedulers, and not the writers, script editors and head script producer as well, or story producer. So just like a lot of the big wigs, and you're on the second draft, and they're basically just talking through the whole thing. You do 4 episodes each, which is technically now 2 episodes because it's an hour long. But anyway, So 2 hours worth of TV.
Yeah.
And you have a meeting about this, and it's basically them talking through everything. Because it's different story strands working at once. And I mean, I love it because I'm a nerd again, like we were saying. So it's just so interesting to see where their brains are, because you're a very small piece of a massive puzzle again. I know there's like different modes of TV now, and people love Netflix shows, but if you've got to make a continuing drama last all year round, it's impressive. Do you know what I mean? Like when you, I don't think people will appreciate soap operas so much more when they go and work on it and go, Jesus, you have to keep this thing running all the time. Like it's a continuous wheel. Do you know what I mean? And so it's so impressive when you see them do it, and you see into the heads of the producers, and they're saying, okay, so this beat won't work from what we touched upon, like, 4 episodes ago, blah, 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 blah. And you don't know all this. You only know the 4 episodes. So you're just like, your head is exploding while you're listening to all these things going on. But yeah, so you have this meeting about the 4 episodes, and then they go and do another draft. So then you read the next one, and then you send your notes back to the script editor. That's who you work with to then talk to the writers. And then you get a shooting script, and then that's when you can officially start your prep, as it were. And you have all your scenes, and you kind of break them down, and then, because obviously you're not going to shoot them in order, it's always in schedule order. So it's whoever's like actor availability, set availability, that kind of thing. And so you just have to go through the whole thing. And the way I try and do it is just go through the strands. There's always like 5 strands. You have like A strand, which is the most important one, and the B and C. They have them like same amount of scenes in them, and just kind of go through them all, try and find out where the emotional arc is and what's most important and what you want to try and highlight. And then start planning your camera shots and start blocking all the scenes, and you get like a bird's eye view of the set. So you can kind of plan in advance and show the crew what you're thinking. And it might not always be like that. Sometimes you go on the set and go, I've just seen this. We could do like this instead. That would be much better. But it's just to give everyone a head start to say, okay, there's 3 cameras on this, and then that's where the actors will be, and we can try and set up for that. So you get a week's worth pretty much doing that, and then you could start having kind of all your technical recce's with all your crew and start talking to like the locations and that kind of stuff. And then you start shooting. I mean, I haven't even got to that bit yet, but you want me to keep going? I feel like I'm talking for too long.
I'm loving it. Let's do it.
Okay. So yes, that's kind of the main bit of the prep. Obviously, you've got your first assistant director as well, who you go through the schedule with and say about timings wise, like how much time for this and this and this and this. And then you start shooting basically, and you turn up on set, you do a line run with the cast, talk to them about any kind of niggles they have, if they want to kind of like maybe tweak anything, or quite a lot of the time, especially with a continuing drama like Corrie, it's your main job is to put them in the right headspace, because they're filming, say for example, at the same time we're filming 12 episodes. So I'm doing 4 and 2 other people are doing another 4. So these actors are filming episode 1, and then they might go off on the same day and go film something from episode 12. And then even on the same day, they might go back and then film something from episode 8. So their heads are exploding internally. And it's your job to try and keep their head from not exploding, and just let them know, we have come from here. This is what this scene is about. And then this scene then leads to this. So give them, just try and ground their arc because their heads are all over the place. And you know what? You don't need to a lot of the time because some of them are so brilliant at it. It's fine. But it's so understandable that they might not be exactly know where they are, because how can anyone retain that information and have a life? So that's like, sometimes the main function is like, okay, we just come from this scene. You guys have come into the pub. From this has happened outside on the street, and then this is where we are now. And so it's just talking through them, all that kind of thing with them, and then just blocking kind of that. Also, there's a new pain at the moment. It's finally it's gone, but since COVID, we were working at 2 meters, so everyone on set had to be 2 meters away from each other. So you couldn't do hugs, you couldn't do kisses, you couldn't do all this stuff. But then you had to plan your scenes so that everyone had to be 2 meters away from each other and it not look weird. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's another thing to take into account. But yeah, so just blocking the action, getting the actor in the right place, and then trying to figure out the best way to cover it with the cameras and make sure it works for everyone, so the sound department can get in, and yeah, and I'll try and stop there, because there's like a whole nother process of stuff going. But that's kind of in a nutshell, even though it was in a nutshell.
Like you say, there's a lot of different equilibriums going on at the same time, and lots of different things happening. You've got to plan your camera shots. Sorry, you've got a sound department comes in when they're needed. Every single department, because I don't think people understand how many different departments are actually needed. But then if you actually sit through, like, say, film credits or TV show credits, that just shows how many people are in one show or have contributed to one different thing. But a little bit more about yourself. What's your favorite piece of technology?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I was looking around my room like, I quite like my iPad at the moment. I'm enjoying that because there's some cool software. Again, nerd. There's some cool software on that to be able to, draw your camera plans. Favorite piece of technology. You know what? I feel like, again, this is going back to the TikTok thing. I feel like I'm aging in a new age world, and I need to ramp up my technology. Like I said, my PC is 10 years old, so I need to get back on the technology train, because I used to love it when I was younger. I get all the new stuff. But you know what? I don't have a great answer for you. And you know what? Off the top of my head, I say my piano, even though it's not technology, but it's a plug-in piano. So you can I can connect it to the computer and everything. But that's just because it's the thing I do in my pastime. Technology-wise, I've not got a great answer. Sorry.
I assume, hopefully, or I guess soon, that we might see you direct a musical then.
Did we say a musical?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'd love to direct a musical, but that blows my mind.
But
yeah, I love all that. I mean, I only got through the 7 minutes of West Side Story, the new one, because something else happened. But I was just, the first 7 minutes, I was like, this is incredible. Like, it just looks incredible. The beat of everything's incredible. Like, the thing with musical films at the moment is they're not doing very well. Like West Side Story didn't do that well. I mean, critically, it was, everyone loved it, but then box office wise, no. What else was there? Cyrano, I haven't seen that yet, but that's not meant to have done too well at the box office. Like, people aren't wanting to see musical films anymore, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, if I was going to make another short film, I think I would try somehow and make a musical short film. I don't know how, because it's another whole element you're bringing in, because you're bringing in sound sync and you've got to bring in recording artists and choreographers and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'd love that. I mean, Greatest Showman, I was such a fangirl for that film. I loved it. So good. I wasn't expecting to like that film, and I was like, this is amazing. And is everyone else loving it as much as I am? Okay, fine. I'll just be a fangirl in my own time. But what's most recently, what's the one on Netflix called? Tick, Tick, Boom with Andrew Garfield. Fantastic. It's not so much a musical film, but there's songs in it. But yeah, and I think Andrew Garfield's incredible, but that film is brilliant. And it's by the guy who does Hamilton. And look what you've done. I've gone down the rabbit hole of musicals now. I need to start talking. Yeah.
I was literally listening to The Greatest Showman before we came on this podcast, and Lin-Manuel Miranda is an absolute genius with what he does. And I will sum up the podcast and ask for one bit of advice which you've received, whether it be from any kind of mentor throughout your journey, which you'd like to pass on.
I mean, there's loads really, but I think the main thing is just to try and give in this industry is don't give up, because it'll feel like loads of times things won't go your way, or you'll have loads of setbacks. Like even just a random example from my short film, the second one I made, I had a period of time where, it was the same day actually, I lost the set that I'd had, and I lost my lead actor. And that happened the same day, and I was like, oh, and there's so many things that are needed to make like a short film or to be in this industry and to do that. Loads of things are gonna go wrong, and you just need to keep going, because if not, then that's the way to do it. You've got to be relentless. You've got to keep going. You've got to email people. You've got to keep reach out to people. Try and find any sort of. I don't think work experience or placements have really been a thing in the last couple of years because COVID, but hopefully they'll be coming back. But it's just never giving up and trying to better yourself every day, and just trying to do a little bit of. If you can do a little bit of research every day, then you feel like you're happy. Do you know what I mean? Like if all you need to do is listen to a podcast. Like Roger Deakins does an amazing podcast called Team Deakins, and that's just so rewarding listening to all those people who are at the top of their game, and they just all that. Find something that inspires you, and then you'll want to do it. Do you know what I mean? Whenever you're getting, this is maybe my advice, is if you ever been kind of knocked down by it and going, I'm not going to get anywhere, is find something, watch something that inspires you and makes you think, no, this is why I'm doing this. This is really what I want to get into, and this is why I'm doing it. And then I think that'll help.
Well, on that note, I'm actually going to end the podcast there. So thank you so much for joining me, Dom. It's been an exciting and enjoyable podcast, and I've loved learning out.
No problem. So I hope I didn't babble too long.